we're about to find out what Nimble Kids is all about. Nimble Kids, like the name of this business. Yvette Halpin is with us right now, and good to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
You're going to teach us to be well. You got some tips, some exercises coming up. Nimble Kids.
Yeah.
Let's find out what that is before we get to all that.
Yes, Nimble Kids. So I actually am the one that started the my little business. So I actually call myself a developmental support practitioner, and to help children that have challenges. It could be either emotional, learning, social, physical challenges. And what I do is I go back and redo missed developmental stages of their development. So basically trying to find the root cause of their challenge. And also through my workshops and classes, I also try to educate the parents about the importance of primitive reflexes.
Okay, we'll get into what primitive reflexes is in moments. So how long have you had this business in play?
I've had it for about 3-4 years, and before that I was an early childhood educator for 22 years.
Okay.
So saw the difficulties that children were having and wanting to find out really where all the difficulties really stem from, and we have to go really back in development.
Yeah, to be in early childhood education for a couple of decades, you're on the front line, you see what the problems are.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you based out of?
So I live in Wakefield, but I actually travel to people's homes. I actually find it better to go to the children's home, because then, it just
They're
makes
more
it
comfortable
easier.
in their surroundings?
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said primitive reflexes. So what does that now? I'm just thinking reflexes are just something that we've all just been born with, and they're just...
Exactly.
They're just there, right? But the problem is they aren't always there?
Well, the problem is that they shouldn't be there. Always
They shouldn't?
There.
Okay.
So the primitive, so as we know of the primitive reflexes, when the baby's born, they're all movements that we know are triggered by different sensory triggers. And they're not controlled by the baby. They appear in the womb, and then from the womb, when the baby's born, they're all there. They're all involuntary movements that they're predictable, but they're involuntary. By 6 months, most of them should be gone, but by 3 years, they shouldn't have any more of these involuntary movements left.
Okay.
Anything beyond that can cause a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what the significance of primitive reflexes are in your line of work then?
Yes, well, you see, the significance of the primitive reflexes from the get-go is that they're genetically encoded in our DNA to actually help develop and mature our nervous system, to bring us from the lower brain, the survival brain, to the higher brain, where we can access all our skills of self-regulation, reading, writing, the executive functioning skills. So all these skills we want to be able to access. So at one point for myself, I use them as an assessment tool. So I have 18 reflexes that I check and see if they are there, then sure enough, the children that are diagnosed will have 5 to maybe 10 of these reflexes, and maybe 3 to 4 reflexes the child will have if they're just having some challenge but not necessarily diagnosed.
Okay, so you give pointers to show where these reflexes still exist to parents that could cause writing and speech difficulties.
Yes, yeah. So the culprit for the reflex that may still be present after the age of 3 that may cause speech and writing difficulties would be the grasp reflex. So we know that one for a baby, when we put pressure on the hand, then they actually grasp, so hence the grasp reflex. But what we don't know and aware of is when the baby grasps, they're actually stimulating the pad of the thumb, which stimulates the mouth to suck and to swallow.
Okay.
And so that's really helpful for the baby, but for later on after 3, this could be a difficulty, because what you'll see as a parent to observe is that the child may have a tendency of chewing their clothes, their pen. Okay. They may have a tendency of slurring, stuttering, having speech difficulties. And then when you're looking at how they're writing, this is something that parents could observe, is instead of having the very mature pencil grip of a tripod grip, they're actually grasping their hand, which creates a lot of tension in their arms, which makes it a writing difficulty. And then some children come to me that have dysgraphia, that have the label, So going through, and then sure enough, they have the grasp reflex. I stimulate, and there we go. There's a reflex. And there's also other things that you can see when the child is going on hands and knees, crawling. You might notice that the fingers are curling under because they're stimulating the pad and then making it difficult to crawl.
We are getting close to being out of time, so I just want to make sure you also brought in these balls as well, because this is also another exercise that you can do.
Here we go. Just doing this grasping and squeezing can help to stimulate the grasp reflex, and that way to make that connection from the lower brain to the higher brain, more mature skill rather than the immature. So this will help with one activity.
Okay.
And that's one out of many that can help integrate.
Okay, so with 30 seconds left here, I mean, quickly, how do people get in touch with you? And so you offer sessions?
Evaluation sessions, yes, to evaluate to see if the reflexes are there, and amongst other things that I evaluate for learning readiness. And it's usually about a couple of hours, 2.5 hours evaluation for a child 7 and older. I do evaluate birth to 5 years old too with reflexes and help the younger age as well.
Okay.
And so that and then there's a follow-up, and then after that there's remediation that I can follow a child.
NimbleKids.ca is the best place to go to.
It is,
Yvette Halpin, thank you very much for being here.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
production Leading Ladies is coming. We've got all the details next on Daytime.